I've known Clark and his family for quite some time, really since Clark was a little baby. His family and I go to church together, and we've enjoyed getting to know each other over the years. My daughter is about the same age as Clark, and I had some concerns when observing one of their Sunday school classes. And it was kind of tough for me because obviously I'm friends with the family, and I didn't really want to bring up that I had concerns. But I knew that at some point it was going to be important for me to do that because that was what was in the best interest for Clark.
We were just at church, and I hadn't got to talk to Kristen in a while, and she was in the lobby, and so I just wanted to catch up with her. And I knew she was a pediatrician, but I wasn't exactly sure where. And anyway, when she said the Thompson Center and what it specialized in, I said, well, Clark's okay, right? Half joking, but then also kind of like, we have seen a little bit of roughness, and he's had kind of a harder time.
So I said, well, actually, I have been a little bit concerned about his language, because I wanted to start someplace where we could both agree. She knew he had some language issues, and so then it went from there. And unfortunately, we're both sitting in the common area of our church. She's crying. I'm feeling a little panicky, but we talked through it because it's really hard, especially to be just completely blindsided.
They had been concerned about language delays for a while for Clark and had become concerned about social interaction difficulties for him and wanted to clarify his diagnosis. And we saw him that day and did decide that he met criteria for an autism spectrum disorder.
Autism is such a huge term, and I needed not answers, but I kind of needed a projection of what that meant for him. Could he go to college? Could he get married? Could there be some of those things? And obviously, I know I was sitting there with like a 4-year-old, so they weren't exactly the most practical questions at the time. But when they were putting my 4-year-old in a box that I thought, he wasn't going to be able to do some of those things, she just did a great job of letting me know that, where he was at and where she saw things progressing, that he was going to be totally capable of having a typical life. And he was, we just needed to bridge some gaps and some things that didn't come quite as naturally for Clark. We could teach him.
When you look around the country and you ask, so if I had a child with autism and I had unlimited resources, where would I take them? And there are places around the country who do the research really well. There are places around the country that might do the clinical very well. I think what positions us in a very special way is this interdisciplinary approach. So not only do we have professionals from all these different areas, but what that also allows us to do is kind of seamlessly integrate all those different components. So we do research, we do training, and we do the clinical work. But they're not separate little silos. What we do is we combine them. So the research that we do here very much informs how we work with the patients here. The training that we do here helps us in the community work with the families directly. So we're one of the few places that integrate the training, research, and clinical missions so seamlessly together.
We are blessed enough to have a team of people here who will actually swoop that family up and walk them through the next stage of that process. For a long time, you would get the diagnosis and then it was just like, okay, now what? But here at the Thompson Center, we're actually able to physically connect the families to the next steps.
They let us know some of the services that were available at the Thompson Center, and they did a great job reaching out to us to set those up and help us coordinate it, because at that time, so many names were flying around, and I had we were in a new world.
Well, when Clark was first diagnosed here at the Thompson Center, he was referred to our clinic, the Behavior Supports Clinic, to receive some additional help with some of the behavioral issues he was having at home. So things like noncompliance, aggression, interactions with peers, those social skills. So we worked with Erin and Clark in the clinic setting in a parent training-based model to help teach her these skills, so things that they could implement at home. He started Leaps Ahead shortly after he started the in-clinic services. The Leaps Ahead program is a group setting that we do in clinic. We specifically work on social skills and group and classroom skills. So for Clark, he doesn't really have any issues interacting with adults, but when it comes to interacting with his peers, that was definitely something that he struggled with. So we worked a lot on prompting appropriate interactions with his same-age peers. So he's made a lot of improvements in his general social skills. The rigid behaviors have reduced a lot.
Laura's been a great therapist for Clark, and we've loved being involved with Leaps Ahead. They were just there to see Clark. They weren't there to see a number, and they weren't there to put a check mark on their day. And Clark has thrived on that.
Clark's doing great. It's been such a pleasure to watch him progress through the Leaps Ahead program, to watch his parents progress in their acceptance and their interaction with Clark. He's really, really doing very well, all the way to now that he's able to be in a typical kindergarten classroom. And right now, he is not expected to have any special services.
I didn't want Clark to have a label on him. I wanted people to see Clark. I didn't want him to see a name. Well, you know, being on the autistic spectrum is a part of who he is as much as those big blue eyes. However, it's a part of him that is workable. And there's so many things that, you know, he still can be a very vibrant, functioning part of our society, and he has a lot to offer. And if this whole presentation can do one thing, I hope it's that it gives somebody who was in our spot 2 years ago a picture of what their kid could be like with, you know, some treatment and some work. If we had kind of just pretended the little differences were okay, we wouldn't have been helping Clark, and it would have been a struggle for him. And I just feel like he's getting so many more skills that are going to help him through life.